Are you a person that prays before meals, practices going to church on a regular basis, and loves God, then gets to work and has a real hard time practicing faith in the workplace? Well, we know as believers that we're supposed to be salt and light. And salt imparts flavor wherever it is, and light pushes out darkness wherever it is. I'm going to talk today a little bit about how I practice faith in the workplace. And part of that story consists of sharing some things that I had to overcome here in order to be somebody that practices faith regularly in the workplace. The mind is the battlefield. And so as we bring understanding, it brings light. And as our understanding grows, what that allows for is our behavior to change. Behavior will not change without our understanding changing. And as understanding comes, it's impossible for that not to impact our behavior. So I want to share something from my life. I grew up with parents that were completely devoted to ministry. They were both senior pastors and both did a wonderful job pastoring a local church, of which I was a part of for most of my life, still am. And what that created in me was an idea that Jesus is not in the workplace, that maybe more succinctly, that my highest call would have to be preaching behind a pulpit. And the role of a senior pastor must be the ultimate role that all of us, ultimately, if we're walking in the will of God for us, have to ascend to that level. And the church has done a reasonable job and an unreasonable job at equipping believers to practice faith in the workplace. I think that some parts of the church have done a good job getting people ready for workplace, quote unquote, ministry. And other parts of the church have done not so good of a job at getting people equipped in their minds to see, here it is, workplace as a ministry. And if we can get the idea that Jesus is outside of the four walls of the church, looking for people that he can partner with in bringing the kingdom of God to earth, well, that's a very, very good mindset to focus on. A way to get your thoughts moving in alignment with heaven, that our job is to be a conduit for Jesus in the marketplace. So getting there for me was not a straight and easy road. Getting there consisted of some ups and downs, and my story will kick off 10 years ago or so. I had spent my career in energy efficiency. I'm still in energy efficiency. I love energy efficiency and decarbonization. We're bringing great solutions to the planet to help make Earth a better place. But about 10 years ago, I got home from work one day, and my lovely wife, Sonia, said to me, "Gabe, I think God spoke to me today about you." And I thought, oh, am I in trouble? What did he say? And what she communicated was that she was in prayer and felt like God said to her that I would be running my own business. That was a shocker to me because I never saw myself in that light. And I always had been living under this ideal that unless I was preaching behind a pulpit, that I was somehow missing God's call on my life. And when she said that, I actually got a little bit encouraged because I love work. I love my job. I love the people I work with. I love the industry I'm in. And in a larger sense, there's a whole community of people that I really care about, that if I was solely focused on the church, I would never be able to impact in any way. So we went out to California a year and a half later, asking God specifically, are you pushing us out into a new role running a business? And it was a conference at Angelus Temple and they had this really interesting mode or method of prayer where they said, if you want prayer for anything, go on up to the balcony. So we went up to the balcony, and there's a man there who I didn't know. Turns out it was Mark Tietzort, who's an Amazon actor and also spent a lot of his life as a senior pastor. And he said, all right, hey guys, you want prayer? Yeah, we want prayer. He said, okay, well, I just want you to be quiet and don't tell me what you want prayer for. And I thought, oh, this is a little different. Okay, so we kind of quieted down, and in about a minute, maybe 2 minutes, he kind of squinted his eyes and looked over at me and he said, are you considering starting a business? And I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. And God was speaking, and I was encouraged. And my wife and I looked at each other like, woo, okay, this is real. This is going to happen. And of course, we responded, yeah, this is exactly why we came out to California from Boston to hear, God, what are you saying to us about this? And he said something really interesting. He said, I feel like God said, this is me, and there's going to be resource for you. The reason I shared that story with you, here we are in 2026, and several years later, we founded a company. My business partner and I founded a company in 2019, and we now have 17 employees. We've done work in, I think, 35 different states, and the fingerprints of heaven are all over the business. We're impacting our employees in significant ways with a shift towards developing leaders rather than just having employees. And that is its own thing, right? The reason I'm bringing that up is because if God called me to business with heaven's intention for what heaven wants to do through me, through the work of my hands to the community around me, what it means is my highest call is not to be a senior pastor. My highest call is to be in business. And my story is not just for me. My story is for you. The reason I'm communicating this is to try and spark faith in you that there's an integration of ministry and ourselves within the workplace. And I think heaven's intent, big picture for Marketplace, is not just to solve the world's problems. Big picture, Marketplace and church are where faith meet, and where faith meet, action happens. And so when I go to work, one of a big mindset things, or one of the biggest things that I can recommend to begin integrating faith at work, number one, is start to believe that you've been sent to the people that you work with. You don't have to be leading a company for this. I don't lead a Christian business. I am a co-leader in a secular business that leads with kingdom principles. Those two things don't have to be separate. They can be the same, because kingdom mindsets and kingdom perspectives work wherever you are. So understanding that God sent you, no matter what your sphere of influence is, it is a sphere of influence. You have influence, and heaven wants to partner with you to influence the earth around you and the world around you, which ultimately boils down to the people around you. Number two, it is not everybody's called to be a senior pastor. There's a very few, limited amount of people that are called into that position, and they're fulfilling their call from God for ministry. It's no different if you're in the workplace. Embrace the mindset that workplace is your ministry, and understand that Jesus is in your workplace affecting people, and you get to partner with him. So every morning, just about every morning, I do journaling and I pray and I take time to be quiet. You can read about that in my book called Unanxious, Learning to Calm Your Mind in an Anxiety-Filled World. But part of that exercise is asking God to use me to encourage people every day. Look in my journal. There's lots of other things in there, but one of the things you'll see is, God, please use me to encourage people today. But I don't leave it in my journal. I have adapted a mindset that Jesus is already in front of me in front of me, out in front of me in the workplace, and I'm looking, what are you doing? Where can I encourage people? And sometimes I feel it and sometimes I don't feel anything, but I still look to encourage people. I sort of think that if Jesus was here in the flesh, that people would be smiling all around him. And the ones that really didn't want to be around him or wouldn't want to be around him are the real religious people that think they have it all figured out. The rest of us are like, hey, over here, we want to hang out with you. Don't come to work assuming that people don't want to hear about God. I sort of think that he's irresistible to most people. And when Jesus said the harvest is plentiful, he wasn't saying look out and see a field that has just a few plants and vegetables to pick. There's abundance that flows from heaven. He's doing things everywhere that we can't see, and we get to partner by paying attention, recognizing that we were sent, and then bringing light with us as we are the salt and the light. And that means being willing to pray for people. So I had a business meeting earlier this week with somebody that's a real mover and shaker in our industry. And I went to begin the meal and I just sort of felt like just a little, hey, do you want to invite me into this conversation? And those weren't words that I heard, but it was more like a sense. And so I just stopped and I said, hey, do you mind if I say a quick prayer? And my friend said, yeah, that would be fine. And I actually just prayed for him and affirmed him, and he got like super encouraged. Was that a huge step? No, I've exercised that muscle. It's the balance of like not being super weird while also being willing to extend with Jesus into the marketplace and the people around us. But I hope you find some encouragement and just start to practice a mindset that you're sent. A mindset that Jesus is already out in front of you doing things in the workplace, and a mindset that workplace is actually your ministry. Maybe it's not all of your ministry, but it's a big part of your ministry because we're required to be there for so long. So there's some things to think about and start practicing. Hope you're encouraged.